2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions.
Remarks to the gentleman from South Carolina. I have very strong disagreement with a lot of the statements that Representative Omar has made. We've covered most of them. That some people did something is the one that really sticks in my craw pretty strongly. Raises a whole lot of flags for me. I think there are significant amount of justifications to raise.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberty.
The House floor erupted in chaos as Representative Ilhan Omar's remarks came under fire, with lawmakers accusing her of betraying her oath of office. Critics claimed her comments about Somali interests crossed a line, sparking a fierce backlash across party lines. At the heart of the storm were accusations that Omar had prioritized Somalia's concerns over America's, a charge her opponents framed as nothing short of treason. This confrontation set the stage for a dramatic showdown in Congress, where her loyalty, language, and legislative record were all placed under a magnifying glass. During a fiery session, representatives from South Carolina voiced sharp disagreement with Omar's past remarks, especially her infamous "some people did something" statement about 9/11. Many lawmakers called that phrase a disturbing sign of disrespect toward one of America's darkest tragedies. To them, it minimized the pain and sacrifice of thousands of Americans, and raised haunting questions about where Omar's true priorities lay. That moment continues to shadow her political career, fueling demands for accountability that grow louder with every passing day.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A.1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows.
Recognized.
Censuring Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Whereas elected members of Congress take an oath to bear true faith and allegiance to the United States without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar took an oath of allegiance to the United States upon becoming a citizen, declaring, "I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen."
Things escalated sharply when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Chip Roy took the floor, delivering one of the most heated speeches Congress had seen in years. Their words didn't just challenge Omar's positions, they branded her as a direct threat to America's values and national security. With voices raised and passion flooding the chamber, they laid out a forceful case for censure, arguing that Omar's actions showed she was working against the very country she swore to defend. As the chamber fell silent, Greene formally introduced her resolution to censure Omar. It accused the Congresswoman of violating her oath and pointed to her naturalization, where she swore to renounce allegiance to any foreign power. Greene then invoked history itself, reading from George Washington's farewell address to warn of pretended patriotism and foreign influence. The symbolism was powerful. Greene's speech framed Omar's conduct not as a lapse in judgment, but as a betrayal of America's founding ideals.
Whereas on January 27, 2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions. Whereas Representative Omar assured the Somalians she spoke to, the U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interest of Somalia. Whereas Representative Omar continued.
The resolution cited Omar's controversial remarks from January 2024 in Minneapolis, where she allegedly told Somali Americans that the U.S. government would act according to their interests. Greene argued that this proved Omar was functioning as a foreign agent, using her position to protect Somalia's waters and political power from within the American system. The claims shocked the chamber and ignited a heated debate over free speech, loyalty, and national duty. Where does expression end and allegiance begin? As Greene spoke, Chip Roy followed with equal fire, recalling historic clashes where political loyalty had collided with American duty. He referenced Senate battles over judicial nominees and the nuclear option, warning that the same spirit of division now threatened the very fabric of government. Roy's thunderous delivery left no doubt. To him, this was not politics as usual, but a defining test of whether America could still hold its leaders accountable.
For as long as I am in U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. Sleep in comfort knowing I am here to protect the interest of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. Whereas George Washington warned in his farewell address of 1796 to guard against the impostures of pretended patriotism, and further declared citizens by birth or choice of a common country, that country has a right to concentrate your affections. The name of American.
Outside Washington, Ilhan Omar's political future now hangs in the balance. Reports suggest her own district has begun to turn against her, with voters openly questioning whether she still represents their values. Commentators are calling this one of the most severe backlashes in recent congressional memory, a moment that could mark the end of Omar's career. Greene and Roy's fiery confrontation may have been the final spark, pushing undecided voters to reconsider their support. The message was unmistakable. This was about more than Omar. It was about America's moral compass. Greene and Roy framed their speeches as a patriotic wake-up call, a declaration that divided loyalty will no longer be tolerated in the halls of power. Whether Omar survives politically or not, the battle has redrawn the lines. For conservatives, it was not just a censure, it was a declaration of strength, the opening act of a new political era in Washington.
Belongs to you in your national capacity must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations. Whereas these statements by Representative Omar clearly violate the oath she took as an elected member of Congress to defend and protect the United States Constitution. Whereas Representative Omar has exhibited the treasonous tendencies George Washington warned about, and her actions must be condemned by all members of Congress who adhere to the oath they took upon assuming office.
As the floor debate raged on, supporters of the censure resolution insisted this wasn't about party politics. It was about protecting America from the dangers of divided loyalty. They claimed Omar's own words made her intentions clear, showing that her allegiance leaned toward Somalia rather than the United States. To them, that was simply unacceptable for any U.S. lawmaker. The chamber grew tense as Republican leaders pressed the argument that the oath of office must mean something. Anything less, they warned, would erode public trust in Congress itself. Greene's speech burned with urgency, not just about Omar's record, but about setting a precedent for every future representative. She insisted that foreign allegiances and American leadership could never coexist, emphasizing that the Constitution must come first. By linking Omar's alleged promises to Somali communities with her congressional votes, Greene built the narrative that America's national security was at stake. Her fiery tone resonated with frustrated voters who already believed Washington had lost its moral compass. Roy amplified that energy, reminding Congress that similar moments of crisis had tested the nation before, and history would judge how they responded now.
Whereas by openly admitting her efforts to advance Somalia's interest, using her position as a United States representative, Representative Omar has revealed herself to be a foreign agent acting on behalf of a foreign government. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee of the Budget and the Committee on Education and the Workforce.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Appreciate the chairman.
Roy then drew comparisons to the past, moments like the Senate's use of the nuclear option, to show how individual decisions had reshaped American politics forever. To him, Omar's case represented another turning point, one that would test whether lawmakers had the courage to act in defense of their principles. His call was pointedly bipartisan, urging every member of Congress to rise above theatrics and confront the issue with integrity. As speeches intensified, Omar's most controversial statements were replayed again and again. Her claim that the U.S. would act as Somalians wish, and her vow to protect Somalia's waters. To critics, these weren't mere slips of the tongue. They were confessions of allegiance that crossed far beyond free expression into the realm of foreign loyalty.
From Pennsylvania, the gentlelady, all the remarks that we've been talking about over here, and I appreciate the spirit of the remarks from the gentleman from Colorado, and would note that we're here for a very obvious reason. The door was opened, and now we're dealing with that. And the door shouldn't have been opened. I'm reminded when I was in the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2005, and Miguel Estrada was being filibustered by the Democrat majority at the time. And we know why. We know this because a memo that said very specifically that he was being filibustered because he was an Hispanic conservative was found, but then shoved aside. We couldn't talk about it because it was found on a server, and they said, we shouldn't get it. There's a whole lot of backstory on that. But there was a lot of drama around that. There were 7 judges being held up: Priscilla Owen, Janice Rogers Brown, because she's black. That was all happening. We just sweep that aside. And you fast forward, and Bill Frist was being pressured to deploy the nuclear option.
Greene and Roy hammered those quotes relentlessly, insisting they revealed Omar's true agenda. Their repetition was strategic, each line driving home the argument that she could no longer be trusted with public office. The debate struck at the core of American identity. Greene reminded her colleagues that every citizen, by birth or by choice, owes loyalty to one nation alone. Invoking George Washington's farewell address once more, she warned against divided patriotism, giving her words a historical gravity that echoed through the chamber. By connecting Omar's alleged disloyalty to Washington's original warnings, Greene portrayed the censure not as vengeance, but as an act of national defense. Omar's defenders tried to argue that her remarks were taken out of context, insisting this was a free speech issue. But Greene and Roy dismissed that claim outright, saying the record spoke for itself. To them, it wasn't about censorship. It was about loyalty and the misuse of power. The divide in Congress had never felt wider. Greene's resolution went further, demanding Omar's removal from key committees, including budget and education, to prevent potential influence over national policy. Supporters argued this was not punishment but protection, a safeguard against lawmakers advancing foreign agendas under the guise of representation. Outside the chamber, the reaction was explosive. Conservative media hailed Greene and Roy's speeches as historic, calling them a wake-up call for America. Clips of the debate flooded social media, hailed as proof that patriots were finally taking a stand. The movement spread quickly, fueling grassroots energy nationwide. Progressive commentators, meanwhile, condemned the move as political weaponization, accusing Greene and Roy of exploiting Omar's identity for partisan gain. Yet even within some Democratic circles, quiet discomfort grew. Omar's own words left lingering doubts that her defenders struggled to dispel. As the dust settled, one truth became undeniable. This was a defining moment for Congress. Greene and Roy's fiery stand would be remembered. As the night America drew a line in the sand, declaring that divided loyalty in public office would no longer be tolerated. Whether Omar endures politically or not, the standard has been set. For conservatives, it was a triumph of conviction. For Omar, it marked the hardest fight of her career. And for the nation, it opened a new chapter in the battle over patriotism and power.
Far beyond free expression.
I remember being part of all those conversations, the Senate lawyer and the Judiciary Committee. Bill Frist decided not to deploy the nuclear option. In 2013, Harry Reid did deploy the nuclear option. 2017, then certain things changed at the United States Supreme Court. So now we live in that world. It is what it is. Now here we sit. The door was opened. I just went back and reread my speech on the floor because the gentleman, I hadn't done that yet. I went back and reread my speech on the floor. not stand by every word of that speech. And in it, I referenced the fact that I had just a few months prior had been in agreement with some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle with respect to January 6th, which there's disagreements on our side of the aisle on some of that with respect to the votes at the time. And that I'd taken very strong disagreement and sought apology from our colleague on our side of the aisle about some of the remarks that were said, but felt that this was not the right path to go down. I stand by that. So here we sit. I could associate myself and do with all the remarks that gentleman from South Carolina. I have very strong disagreement with a lot of the statements that Representative Omar has made. We've covered most of them. That some people did something is the one that really sticks in my craw pretty strongly. Raises a whole lot of flags for me. I think there are significant amount of justification